intelligence community assesses, and Director Clapper, your statement for the record underscores that the Taliban remains resilient and capable of challenging U.S. and international goals in Afghanistan. The community also assesses that Taliban senior leaders continue to enjoy safe havens in Pakistan, which enables them to provide strategic direction to the insurgency in Afghanistan without fear for their safety. Does the community assess that Taliban reconciliation is likely to have a great deal of success, considering that the group is resilient, maintains the ability to challenge the United States, and continues to enjoy sanctuary in Pakistan, and knows the timelines under which we plan to withdraw U.S. forces from Afghanistan?
Your mic, please.
I think our assessment is pretty much as you stated it, sir. The Taliban remains a resilient, determined adversary. That said, again, I repeat that I don't think anyone harbors any illusions about it, but I think the position is to at least explore the potential for negotiating with them as a part of this overall resolution of the situation in Afghanistan.
I want to be careful how I ask this, and hopefully you can respond in some way with respect to our relationship with Pakistan. The safe havens that do exist have been pretty obvious and well documented publicly. How is our relationship with Pakistan at this point in time allowing us to address those safe havens and the cross-border activity that's taking place there from a Taliban standpoint?
Well, this is obviously part of the dialogue that an engagement that Director Petraeus and I have spoken of. And clearly this is a point of discussion with the Pakistanis, and they are certainly aware of our concerns. But this is a case where historically sometimes a good example where our mutual interests don't always converge.
Director Petraeus, anything you want to add to that?
Well, I think, again, the record is obviously mixed. There has been progress against some of the extremist elements in the border regions in particular. That would include, obviously, al-Qaeda. When number 1, 2, and 3 are removed from the picture in a single year, needless to say, that's a pretty significant accomplishment. But it's beyond that. It's important to note back in October of this past year, for example, 4 of the top 20 in a single week were either captured or killed. And again, some of this has obviously been undertaken together. There's been progress also by our Pakistani partners against the elements that have threatened their very existence. We should remember that a little over 2.5 years ago, it looked as if the Tehrik-i-Taliban Pakistani was going to continue to march right out of Swat Valley and perhaps into the suburbs of Islamabad. They reversed that. They fought very hard. They've taken very, very significant casualties. And in so doing, they've also gone after some of the other elements allied with TTP in the federally administered tribal areas. On the other hand, obviously, there's been insufficient pressure on the Haqqani network. On some of the other elements, again, the allies of al-Qaeda, such as the Commander Nazir group, the IMU, and some others. And then, needless to say, the Afghan Taliban has not been pressured sufficiently in the sanctuaries that it enjoys in Baluchistan and in other areas as well.
General Burgess, you've also been integrally involved in this issue relative to the cross-border activity. Anything you want to add to this?
No, sir. I think, in fact, Director Petraeus kind of laid the line out very well in terms of where things are progressing.
Okay. Director Mueller, a month ago, the President signed the National Defense Authorization Act and issued a signing statement in which he outlined his reservations about certain provisions. Regarding Section 1022, which mandates military detention for a limited type of non-U.S. citizen terrorists, the President stated that he would use his waiver authority for entire categories of cases and would design implementation procedures to provide maximum flexibility and clarity to our counterterrorism professionals. Are you aware of any categories of terrorists for whom the President has used or intends to use his waiver authority, and if so, which ones? And how are the intelligence and law enforcement communities implementing Section 1022 of the NDAA?
Let me start, Mr. Vice Chairman, by saying that at the outset I had reservations in two areas. One, in terms of our continued authority to investigate terrorism cases in the United States, and that was resolved by the legislation. The other part was what happens at the time of the arrest in the United States, and the statute provides for the administration to develop a set of procedures that would be applicable to that particular situation. Without getting into details, I can say that they're, with the Justice Department and the White House, they're in the process of drafting those procedures. I think it would be premature to talk about any of the specifics because it's still in the drafting stages. But my hope is that as we go through and develop these procedures, that the remaining concerns that we have as to what happens at the time of arrest will be resolved.
Well, I thank you for that and that comment, and would just say that, as you know, we had extensive conversations between DOJ, the White House, and Congress on this issue as we went through that drafting, and I would hope you would continue to dialogue with us and with regard to the regulations that are ultimately implemented.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice Chairman.